New tank. Who dis?
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Ron Bear from SpikyBits.com, and in this video, we're going to unbox and build and hopefully magnetize the new Rogal Dorn battle tank for Warhammer 40k. So this tank, has had a lot of discussion online about it. There not being a bottom to the tank, and I think there's some pros and cons to all that we're about to see here. So it is $90 at release from Games Workshop, which is an interesting price because there's a lot of folks out there that thought perhaps it would be more. I definitely did, and being at $90, well, now in GW money that seems actually cheap, but and there's a reason for that. But I think a lot of folks are upset because it doesn't come with a full and complete bottom to it, which I'm about to show you right here. You can see on this sprue that's the bottom right there. So there's obviously going to be a bigger gap because that's the bottom of the tank, right? So, and then here's the rest of the sprues. So we probably won't get quite back to this, but I did want to point out that there are a lot of options to this. So, and we'll show you that here in the instructions. So the both of the fronts of the guns can be assembled separately. So we'll have to figure out a different way to magnetize this to the turret piece, which I don't see. It's not in my hand. I don't exactly know where that is. Oh, right here. That's what we're going to have to try to figure out if we can magnetize it or not, I suppose. I'll get a little bit better light on this so you can kind of see. Then you got the armored skirts, which I think are an upgrade, if I recall correctly. These actually don't have to be glued down. So if you want to, depending on how you want to do your treads, and speaking of treads, here's the tread sprue. There's a whole bunch of longer pieces on here, and they look like they just kind of chonk in like those areas right there, those little nubs. And then right here across the bottom, you can put the armored skirts if you want. I definitely would recommend it. Some folks just don't like painting, like, oh, I got to go in there with metal. You don't necessarily have to. We've showed a lot of tricks through the years. Just type in weathering your vehicles here on YouTube, and we'll show you some tricks so you don't have to paint metal on all your treads or anything like that. But some folks just like to have more armor. I personally like to have more armor showing than tread. So here's the instruction manual, and remember that was 3 sprues right there. So $90 for 3 sprues. By comparison, the Bane blade for $170 is 9 sprues, believe it or not. So, and they've combined the kits a couple, over the years. The new Lehman Russ kit that actually comes with all of the weapon variants. I think there's the Demolisher variant, I believe, is. Let's take a look here on their website, just check in, which is weird. So it looks like this is $60 for 3 sprues as well for another tank. So you've got kind of the extreme range there. $60 for 3 sprues, $90 for 3 sprues, and 7 sprues for $170 for the Bane blade. Now, I'll be honest with you, all those folks that are really upset about these, not getting a bottom to it, if they had to put a 4th sprue in here, this probably would have been a $120 kit. I mean, you figure these are $30 each. Maybe it would have been $110, like we're seeing with some of the Space Marine stuff by Heresy. So, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take a lower price for maybe a little bit of less. And it's not even functionality, to be quite honest with you. It just isn't there. And as always, the color coding will let you set up like however you want to kind of put in your duders, whether you just want, the pencil stubber, you want the man crew, you want the back stubber dude, you can do all that. And then getting into it here, it seems like the assembly on the tread sides is pretty easily, like in the past, rhinos and things were a little messed up, but this doesn't seem that hard, just kind of looking into it. And there's little cuts right there for all of the treads, which is cool. And the one thing I do want to mention, and this being the first step, you might forget it, and it says right there, hey, put this tread over it, is you're going to probably want to put a magnet over that panel right there, because that's where your sponsons go. So if I had to guess, I would say we would probably want to put a 3/8 inch by 1/16 inch magnet right there. And I would almost drill it out like kind of towards the back. Just at that point right there, I would get the pin vise out, and I would just go ham and make sure and measure it first and then figure out where your center point is so that you don't go past this notch, because I imagine that the sponson has to kind of lock onto those areas, so you're going to want to stay inside this flat area right here. And I would use a 3/8 inch by 1/16 inch magnet. I think that would probably support the weight for sure. And just if you just drill clean through, then you can put a little piece of extra sprue back here, maybe make an X, maybe make a cross, maybe some plastic card, whatever, to reinforce it so it doesn't get pushed in. Because once you seal this up, you're not going to be able to get back to that magnet. So you want to make sure it's nice and strong. From there, just follow the instructions here on all the treads. Hopefully that isn't an issue. I don't think it will be. Here's the gap that everybody's talking about. Like I said, it would be a more expensive kit if it wasn't in there. So I'm kind of on GW's side. At that price point, I ain't mad at it. 100% for sure. All the assembly here, those are your exhausts, which kind of point downwards. This little interesting front plate goes on. It looks like it might be a lot easier to line up and everything. You know, sometimes you get these things that are like the full square box, and it starts to get cancered, and you know, it can get off-centered real quick if you're not paying attention to it, and then you're kind of screwed because your whole thing's off kilter. So it seems like when you don't have as many parts to line up, that might be a blessing for assembly as well. And then right here, you got to lock in the front tread or the side treads to the center chassis or fuselage. I guess it'd be a chassis. So that locks in right there. The rest of the exhaust pieces right there just look like straight up slices, which is kind of wild. And then just a bunch of ports and view things. Then you build the turret, and right there where I was talking about, you don't want to glue that in. But this is probably where we're going to attach some magnets. And if I had to guess, I would say 1/4 inch magnets. But we'll get to the assembly part, and I'll let you know for sure. I don't think there'll be a problem getting to that from the inside, but we'll see kind of how it goes. I really want to look at the back of that piece and just see how it looks. And then you get your choice of turret weapon right here, and they have their separate assemblies. Those are separate parts, so that's really cool. So both of those are going to attach to the back here somehow using the slot system. I'm not exactly sure yet. Then we're going to take a look, and there's all your crewmen. You can kind of figure that out. It looks like some of the parts overlap, so you won't have a whole lot of options there. More cupolas, different things. Looks pretty normal. I might use blue tack on that just so it doesn't mess you up, because storing these turrets sometimes would be really hard if you put your aerials on, so I don't necessarily recommend that. And then here's the front guns. You've got the twin guns here. Looks like you have to put some sort of, you can put headlights or the weapon. Why would you ever put headlights on there? So you're definitely going to put those weapons. You can just pull them out if you don't take them, whatever. And they have a weapon mount, and then this actually mounts going backwards. Looks like there's notches, and then you twist it around to the front. So don't glue that down. Extra fuel tanks, or external fuel tanks. Some more gear, tow hooks and things. And then here's those armored skirts. I'm not sure if these are push fit or you got to glue them down. But like I said, depending on how you want to paint this, you know, you can decide for yourself. And then you've got the armored skirts that look like there's some notches right there. So there's going to be the notches on the inside. Looks like they lock into there, so that's cool. And then you've got the side sponsons, which are optional. Looks like they go together pretty much like every other side sponson. With a little luck, these will be push fit, but if not, we can magnetize them with probably like a 1/16 inch magnet. I wouldn't think that would be a problem. And like I was saying right here, that area is you don't want to get into that area drilling holes or having glue overlap, because those need to be flush. So you're going to want to figure out your 3/8 of an inch and then what the diameter is, and drill right there. And if I had to guess, that the cavity here, the cavity here is wider to where the actual sponson support is. So what you're going to want to do is you're probably going to want to stay more towards the back so that you can build up a sub-assembly inside here somehow. And we'll look at some options once I build it up after we go over this, to show you what I kind of came up with. And then more gear, extra pack and stowage and things, and that looks to be about it. So in theory, it's not that much going on. So let's kind of get some ideas here. We already looked at the sprues, so I think I'm ready to go and get this thing assembled and kind of see where we end up with what needs to be magnetized and what doesn't. Now here is the assembled tank, and this thing's really interesting. So first off, let's talk magnets. Let's talk things right here. So literally on the first page, I was like, man, don't forget to put your magnet in here. Guess what I did? I completely forgot to put my magnet in the side panel right here. So I'm a big dumb. But with that, while that was my problem and it caused some more work for that, it actually probably made it a little bit better for what I can tell you all about assembling yours. So there's two different sizes of magnets we're going to use in this project. There's 1/4 inch magnets and 3/8 inch magnets. And what I recommend, if you drill a hole through to make it flush, probably use the 1/4 inch magnets right here. If you're going to just, you're like, you know what, I don't want to do a whole lot of drilling. I'm just going to put this big magnet on the other side of that plastic, and it should still attract pretty good through the plastic because it is a bigger size. You could probably use this 3/8 inch magnet and get away with it. So either way, it's up to you. You don't have to use this little panel, which, by the way, this is a neat little thing I picked up a long time ago. This is a leather punch, and it's got a bunch of different sizes there you can see on the dial. So I just basically did it upside down. I put a little punch in there, and that's what made those little rivets that you're seeing. It's a neat little tool, and I really enjoyed it in this little plastic card. I used to do a lot more with this, but nowadays it's just fixed my mistakes. So you're going to want to go flush with your magnet to the outer surface of this. Now, I didn't here because I had to put this panel on it, which kind of messed me up on this, which I went completely flush to here, which you should do when you do yours, but mine shouldn't have, because now I have this extra lip. So it didn't take anything away. I mean, it's just maybe a little bit on there, sticking out just a smidge, which is fine. It still hangs on there just fine with that area in yellow that we were talking about in the instruction manual. So now what I did here is I cut 2 pieces of sprue out, took a little bit of blue tack, put it behind it, just to give it some support and just kind of get it in the approximate position I want. And then I glued the crap out of the top and the bottom. But I was very careful to kind of hold it here, and I hit it with a little bit of kicker out of the bottle. And then what that did was it made it so that none of the glue dried on this. So 2 1/4 inch magnets here for each sponson is what you're going to need. And make sure it's flush to the top right there. So you can size all that up before you glue, no problem. For the turret, or for the sponsons rather, what we did was we took some metal strips right there, cut them down, made them the right size, and glued them flush to the back of this. And then inside of here, just used, what was this, a 1/8 inch? Yeah, this is a 1/8 inch magnet by 1/16, and just drilled it in there using our wow stick just to pre-drill the holes. Now, I love this wow stick. Can't say enough good things about it. The only thing I don't like about the wow stick is you got so much control over it. Just with you just put a little prick of where you want to go. So say this is the magnet. I want to drill right here. I'm going to take a thumbtack or the edge of my X-Acto blade and just go boop and make that little spot right there. And then that is pretty much all you need. As long as you press it down pretty hard, that's all you're going to need to get that area to hit with your wow stick right here. And man, it just goes. The problem is the wow stick, and that's the only thing I don't like about the wow stick, it doesn't have a 1/8 inch drill bit. So you just have to come along with your 1/8 inch drill bit, which I don't even know which one it is. One of these here, I think it's this one. That looks about right. Yep, that looks about right. And just take the hole that's already there, and with a couple of quick turns from your pin vise, you'll get the exact diameter that you need and not have to sit there and hand crank on it. It's just a pain in the butt, and it saves so much time. They're not that expensive for a tool. I think they're like $50 on Amazon, and we'll put the link below for it. But if you like picking up the coolest and latest and greatest hobby tools, I definitely recommend it. If you want to sit there and hand crank, hey, by all means, go for it. But my hands are not getting any younger, so I try to save a little bit of time where I can on that. So just the 1/8 inch magnets right there on all of the multi-melta or heavy bolters, and you're good to go. And they will just lock in just like that, which really worked out well. So moving on to, I don't think that back second magnet is glued, but that's okay. We got it in there. Moving on to the front here. So what we were able to do with this was just use some blue tack, because you can actually, there's really no need to magnetize this. It's pretty snug, and to switch them out, you really, it's super snug. You just smash in some blue tack from the back. Well, you can't see that right there, unfortunately. Can I get light on that? I can't really. But anyways, oh, you can almost see it right there with the blue. So there's the holes right here, and as you're assembling it, just jam some blue tack in there to where that's going to be, and then it'll just kind of squish through the front, and then you're good to go, and that stuff won't pop out. Same thing with this turret here, because it's got this kind of lock system. You really don't need to magnetize it either, because it's going to hold it. It holds it pretty secure without the blue tack, but I would just use a little bit of blue tack on there and just make sure it's all locked in and everything. Now, for the part you're probably wondering about, yes, the turret does. I mean, if you really want to completely magnetize it, I would definitely recommend magnetizing the turret. And here's how I did it, because I wasn't sure when we were looking at the instructions how this was going to be. So this particular front weapon uses a single notch, and the double-barreled one uses a double notch. Hey, how about that? Both of which need to fit into here. So I was like, well, what do these both share in common? And then I realized that off to the left and the right, you could probably put some little steel plates right there. And I went ahead and measured, cut it out super quick, and then locked it down and glued them into there nice and flush. And then what I did was here, just drill straight through to the back, and you can see that white area. That's just plastic card that I literally put in there from the back here. I used the front to measure it, and then just cut a little shallow, and it just dropped right in there. And then all I had to do was put a little glue in each of these holes, and then drop the magnets into it. These are 1/4-inch magnets, and that was it. So super easy. It still holds all the weight, just like this. And the cool thing is, because of these notches, it's going to hold the weight going forward too, and there's no torque because it locks in. I did use some blue tack up here because, like I was saying in the instruction part, I think it's kind of weird. That would be very hard to store. So for storage, you can pull this off and kind of put it wherever, and then just kind of blue tack it back on. These turret cupolas actually pop out too, believe it or not. You don't have to glue these in case you ever want to switch them out or something like that. And then these actually, I just put a smidge of blue tack on the back too, because if you ever want to put crew or anything in here, or they make some upgrades that perhaps you'll need that area. So there's really no sense to gluing it down if you don't have to. But just be aware that you always flip it from the back forward. So when you're putting this in here, just like that, and it switches to the front. So let's give you the list of magnets. I wrote it out here on this Post-it. So each weapon, to magnetize each weapon, you're going to want 4 1/8 by 1/16 inch magnets. Per sponson, you're going to want 2 1/4-inch by 16th inch, so that's 4 total for those. 2 more for the turret, like I showed you right up there, that actually go into the back here. And then for the side sponsons, you're probably going to want, like I said, either 2 3/8 inch magnets or 2 1/4-inch magnets, depending on what you want to do. If you don't want to drill out extras over here, I would use the 3/8. If you do, I would use the 2 1/4-inch right there. And now you're probably wondering, well, that's great, but how does it compare to some other tanks out there? Well, I'll show you. So here is the Macarius, which a lot of folks are like, hey, this is basically the same stat line and everything as a Macarius, well, ish. But it's not even close size-wise. So the Macarius would be kind of a hard sell to use as this particular tank right here. So that's kind of unfortunate. But you could easily use it. Or how does it compare to a Lehman Russ? Well, that's a little bit interesting too. So a Lehman Russ with trench rails on it is about the same length. It just isn't quite the same footprint or wide. With its sponsons, it's just as wide, but it's not, or it's just as wide as the chassis, but it's not completely wide. So there really isn't a good thing out there, unless you really start digging into some 3D printing, to actually have one of these. So, you know, like I said, there's some reasons why it's priced the way it is with the sprues and everything, and why the bottom itself is missing, which I will show you. Yep, the bottom is missing. I guess you could use the area down here. You could put a plastic bag in it or something like that, and store your extra track guards and things, which again, you don't have to glue on. Just those little notches right there lock into the two little spots on the rails you can see right there. And you could just have that on there, or maybe you can use a little bit of blue tack if you want, and lock that down. So that's really about it. I mean, it's a cool little tank. It's $90. It could be more, and you could get more, but I feel like at $90, it's actually in GW money. It's a good middle of the road price, as much as it pains me to say that, because it is $90. And you know, the Lehman Russ itself. Now, of course, this is a Mars Alpha pattern. And you know, back in the day, it was a lot cheaper, but nowadays these things are stupid expensive. And I definitely, unless you have, you know, the disposable income, I wouldn't recommend getting something like this. But that being said, you know, it is a really interesting tank. It's a really interesting take by Games Workshop to come out with all this kitty and stuff at once. And I feel like guard players are definitely loving it right now with all the variety and all the different things out there. So that is it for this one. I hope you enjoyed our unboxing build and how to magnetize the new Rogal Dorn tank from Games Workshop. It's a really interesting kit overall, and definitely let me know your thoughts. I didn't put any stowage or anything on here, but there's a lot more bits that come in the kit as well. That's very, very cool to kind of mess around with. I lost my heavy bolter right there. If you have any questions or anything, or you know, on the process, or how I got what, or if I think you could do it any different, definitely leave them in the comments below, because I'd love to hear what you think about this one and the fact that it's so daggone sturdy. If you liked that video feature, consider supporting us over at Patron.com and get back in the mail each month a miniature crate full of some of the stuff we review here, as well as some of the top 3D artist designs out there too, to help support what they're doing. Plus, discount coupon codes from some of those same manufacturers. They're yours to keep, whether you cancel or stay on. It's totally up to you. Obviously, we want to keep you as happy as possible. So check it out over at patreon.com/spikybits.